Welcome to Down and Out but Statistically Average podcast. We are two friends turning our coping mechanisms into content one episode at a time. I'm Connor. I'm a lifelong Notre Dame football fan. I'm always going to get my hopes up every season, especially this season, and get them destroyed. My co-host Nate here. He is a Texas Ranger loyalist, and with some tough outings these last couple weeks, he's got a lot of jokes about late inning chokes to come up. We're not analysts, we're not experts, we're just two guys with mics and strong opinions. And we're going to jump back into Notre Dame football and to the Texas Rangers baseball and what's been going on lately. But before we get into that, my friend, Nate, the great, the one and only,
That's me.
what's poppin'?
Oh, well, as we get into the Texas Rangers, right? That's what we're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to get into the Rangers first because, as we know, unfortunately, they did not make the playoffs. You were cautiously optimistic. Why'd you get cautiously optimistic, my guy?
Because we had like an 11-4 run in like the last the last few weeks of the season. Like it made absolutely no sense, and yet it made total sense as to how, like, the Dallas News categorized us. Man, what was the quote that they used? It was some of the worst offense that we've ever had. Yeah, the front office called it a lifeless and underperforming lineup for second straight years. Multiple core hitters regressed. Like, they got worse year after year. Like, some of our core hitters, i.e. people like Marcus Semien, like, he had some bright spots like we talked about in the last one. But then there's the big elephant in the room, because he's also a big dude, and I hope he doesn't actually hear this. Adolis Garcia, El Bombi. Love that dude. Yeah, he was absolutely great in the 2023 ALCS. That's why he was the MVP. He sucks. He is the worst. He has a so much higher strikeout rate than anyone else does. He swings at just about anything, or he just doesn't swing at all, and he strikes out just looking. I don't understand what was the disconnect there. But the funny thing was, I want to say it was early September through mid-September. We went on this, like, I want to say it was like 11-4 run. It was insane. We had this insane homestand and everything, and even a bit of a good away stint as well. And we were like, oh, dude, we might actually be able to come back. It would have needed to have been like an entire month-long comeback with oh, dude, I was watching and I was like, we can only lose 4 more games. Oh, God. But the crazy part is that great stint started when some of our core hitters were all hurt.
They were out of that.
We had Seager out and he kind of came back, but then Semien got hurt and then Garcia got hurt. We brought up a couple guys from the minors, from our farm system, which is lackluster at best. And then we went off. We had the best offense we'd had in months, if not all season. It made no sense at all. And then as soon as the guys came back from the IL, we bombed the rest of the season. I'm kind of sorry that I'm getting so passionate, but I'm kind of not, because I cannot overstate my level of disappointment, and yet I knew that was the way it was going to happen. Not necessarily the fact that it was the IL versus non-IL, but this is always what the Texas Rangers do. So welcome to the Texas Rangers fandom, Connor. It's why I agreed to call this podcast Cautiously Optimistic. All right?
Yeah. Well, this was no 2023 year where your cautious optimism turned into just
we didn't need a cautiously optimistic then, because we were super hot from the get-go. It was amazing. But Jock Peterson, who was the worst hire for DH in the history of DHs. I don't know how much, 20, 30 million we were paying him for.
A lot of money.
I think we're still stuck with him for another year. But he was on the IL. Garcia was on the IL. Semien was on the IL. And then we popped off with a bunch of rookies, with a bunch of nobodies. It's
how does that happen? How does that happen? How does a bunch of guys from the farm league come up? Not disparagingly, I'm saying. It's just how do they come up and just they go on this run, and then when the players who are supposed to be the better ones come in? What tell me.
It can't just be the hitting coach situation, because we got Chris Boone, or whatever his name was. I can't even remember. But we got a new, we fired our hitting coach halfway through the season, got a new one.
Yeah.
and it kind of improved, but it really didn't. But but just the mere fact that, hey, we've got core hitters that are underperforming significantly, but then you just take them out with the IL, you bring in anybody, bring in any sort of life into the organization. That's the way that I'm looking at it here. They brought life into the organization.
Right.
It's
Right.
just it's got to be some element of culture on the team that
Oh
has
yeah.
to be like, and one of the, if not the main factors in how that was possible. It's also entirely possible that we just, it was a momentum thing. And I'm sure it's a little bit of both. But the mere fact that, hey, we should have been abysmally worse with our core hitters on the IL, and yet we were notably better, and we were better immediately. And then we got worse immediately after they came back.
Dude.
Like, the impact that these guys have as core hitters, they must have such an impact on culture or morale to the extent that if they're sucking, it bleeds into everybody else too. It just goes back to team leadership and individual ownership as well. It's just, I don't necessarily think that the Texas dugout is toxic, but something's happening psychologically in this team. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe there's some toxicity. I remember you saying that, I think it was on either the last podcast or the podcast before, that there was basically a podcast you had listened to, or maybe it was like a video or something, and they basically were like asking a newer player that had joined the team, kind of how his experience has been, and he said that like the locker room was sort of like, if you're not in the top dogs, then we don't talk to you. Sort of that culture, like it was very cliquey. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was, no. Yeah, you're talking about a very controversial interview of a recently departed team member, not like dead, but not like dead to us. It was Kevin Pillar, and he was getting interviewed on a podcast, and he was just like, yeah, it was kind of like every man for himself, not in like a horrible, like, screw you kind of way, but they didn't really integrate very well. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of team cohesion, and
that's a problem.
Yeah, and that's something that the manager, who up till the end of the season was Bruce Bochy, should have been managing. I mean, that's what managers are there for. I mean,
they set the tone.
They set the tone and they drive the culture. That's like that's the most important element of it. And I just don't think that there's a winner's culture right now, or like an actual team cohesion culture in the Texas dugout.
I agree.
It's there in the bullpen. It's there. We can talk about that, but
I think y'all's talent is undeniable. Like, even hitting wise, I know that your hitting's been completely streaky, and we talked a lot about, plate discipline and things like that with the Rangers. And I know you guys got the new hitting coach halfway through, but even still, like, the talent to me there is undeniable, from an objective standpoint. But like you said, there's maybe a combination of different psychological factors, bad culture or semi-bad culture. And we see that. That's why what Bochy just, they just got hired a new guy. So, like, what do you think it was about Bochy? Like, because he was correct me if I'm wrong, he was the one that led you guys to the pennant. Like,
he was.
So what do you think changed with him, or what happened?
No, it's the wrong question. I think it's actually the opposite. I think he's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winning manager, and he deserves his place in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He absolutely does. He really, really does. And he's got pretty much more rings than any other manager in the history of managers. More rings with different teams.
Could it be he's at the end of his career and it wasn't?
I think it's just unwillingness and or inability to change, to move with the culture. We've got a lot of young guys on this team, but I don't think I don't think that there was that the pillars of this team, Simeon and Seager, were actually leading in the way that they really should have, because they would have needed to, I think in this season in particular, they would have needed to step up that much more into a leadership role and culture in order to compensate for the lack of the culture leadership from Bruce Bochy. I do trust a lot of our coaches. I really do. And I'm sorry, I mentioned the name Chris Boone. No, that was actually somebody else that I knew a long time ago. But no, the new hitting coach, I remembered his name. It's Brett Boone.
Boone,
yeah. It was Brett Boone. But
how'd you get that wrong? God.
I can't believe I've done this. No, I can't believe I've done this to you. No, I did you dirty, man. But I do think that there was some leadership that's taken into it. Mike Maddox, our pitching coach,
Yeah,
he's been great, even with really lackluster pitching staffs. I mean, you look at 2010, 2011. That's when he was our pitching coach, and he was pitching coach for a few years after that, and then he left the organization for a number of years, and then he came back. I want to say 2021, 2022, and then he got to coach over the most elite pitching staff in the entire MLB, because that's what we were. We averaged about 3.49 ERA across the board, including a very shaky bullpen. But we had the best ERA ending the regular season, than anybody else, and we didn't even make it into the postseason. That just goes. And we also had one of, if not the best defenses in the entire MLB as well. It's just the hitting.
Yeah.
So that's how the hitting made such a profound impact, because all the other pieces were there, but the hitting was not. And hitting is so inherently psychological, and it's so inherently tied into the culture. It's not just whether or not somebody's hot or not. Like that's the hot hand fallacy. That's not how anything works. But these are a bunch of young guys in their young 20s. They're younger than us, Connor.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
You get up in your heads, or you don't have that leadership quotient, that leadership quality, that actual desire and motivation to lead, not only by example, but these are a bunch of egocentric guys. You ever met a baseball player? They're almost insufferable in a lot of different ways. Not all of them, but by and large,
I was gonna say not all of them.
They can be very, 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 very selfish, very, very greedy, kind of a thing. But you can definitely lead by example. But you also need to lift up and encourage. You also need to show your skills and actually contribute to everybody else's hitting too. You can't just be like, oh yeah, wherever Boch wants to put me in the lineup, I'm going to do my best. And then if things aren't going well, oh, he's going to switch it up again. No, you got to take some personal ownership yourself of, hey, what actually works better? And maybe there was some of it. I'm willing to wager there was not nearly enough of it. That's where I come down.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate to hear that Bochy, he got fired, right? Or did he quit?
No,
it was a mutual.
I do believe it was an article by Lone Star Baseball. The terminology used was that it was a mutual decision between him and. I think that he should have retired after the end of last year.
Okay.
I think that he should have been done there. Apparently apparently there's still rumors that he's going to continue trying to find another manager role. But I do think in some senses he was probably a little bit forced out. Like that's just, dude, 2 losing seasons after winning the World Series.
Yeah, it's tough. When it's not even like when you win the World Series like that and you retain a lot of those players, which I know you guys did. Mm-hmm. That's hard to go and just kind of nosedive like that.
And you try to compensate for it. You try to exercise your farm system. But Evan, you have people that were like the little savior back in 2023 postseason. Evan Carter kept getting hurt last year, and then this year he was not so much hurt, but he never really took off. Like I think he was moved up to the majors and stuck in the majors way too early. I really think so. And there's plenty of stories in the MLB of that. But
dude, speaking of young guys on fire, did you see that Yankees pitcher, the young 24-year-old kid?
Went something like 8 innings, I think. Woo! Yeah, no, that was incredible, and I didn't really watch that series nearly as much because I have no love for either the Yankees or the Red Sox. Like I couldn't care less. I was watching a lot more of the Cubs Padres series because my number 2 at work. My captain at work, he's a diehard Padres fan. Padres have never won a World Series. So,
I didn't know that. Okay.
But the problem is my family is all from Chicago. So I'm also a Cubs fan, and that's who they were playing against. So I was in this really weird equilibrium between I'm not really like a super diehard Cubs fan. I'm not really like a super diehard Padres fan. I want them both to win, but whoever wins, it's a win-win for me.
It's a win. It's a win-win for you.
Like, I don't really have to worry. So it was a bummer to see, my number 2, my captain's face kind of just and whole demeanor just kind of change after the Padres ended up losing that wild card series. So it looks like the Cubs are going to be progressing. But
yeah. Well, dude, your family must be excited about that one then.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's at least something to root for since, the Texas Rangers aren't going to be in it. But in the same sense, it was another thing that my number 2 at work, a guy named Jake, it was something that Jake said to me. It was like, hey, I kind of want the Padres to not move forward because then I don't have to have the emotional stress like of moving forward in the playoffs anymore. I'd like to be able to
I
just
know
say
that
it's
feeling
totally over. And you know what? I kind of felt that way once the Rangers in like the last 2 weeks, once they like turned that corner
of
and
like
just
there's no shot.
nosedive
Yeah.
back into the ground. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, just let's lose a few more games. Let's just let this be done and
Uh,
start looking forward to some bigger and better things, next year.
well,
That's
hey,
where I'm at.
no, dude. Speaking of next, listen, I'm like literally on that journey right now, and we'll get into that in a little bit with the Irish. But we got our backs against the wall in that way. So stressful. But so next season, let's kind of like transition to that for you guys for the Rangers in next season. What are you guys kind of seeing? Um, for the next year. What do you guys? Do you need any additional types of players? What do you think is the plan going forward? Or if not, if you don't really know like the sort of the insights of what's going on, like what do you think is the best moves forward for the Texas Rangers? Because obviously we know they just hired a new GM and all that good stuff. But for you, like, what do you
Yeah.
see? Give me your insights.
Yes, what I did like to see was it was a report from actually MLB.com was that payroll is likely going to be coming down again in 2026. Just for the top brass in the front office, just basically the idea being expecting sharper prioritization rather than splashy or flashy spending. So we hired
Makes
some
sense.
great big names towards the end of it, and then there's my cat on my lap. Yeah, hi Sylvie, can you get down?
Meow.
But what they're going to be looking at more, and what I'm looking more forward to more, I want to see more development than I do big trades. I want us to preserve as much of our starting pitching rotation as possible because that's what's been shining through tremendously. I want Eovaldi, I want DeGrom. I'd love to see how Merrill Kelly fits into this rotation. Get Tyler Mahle back from the IL, get him healthy again because he was absolutely owning ERA, and all of them were. And then Patrick Corbin, we'll see. Would love to see Cody Bradford actually come back because he's been out this entire season with injuries. But introducing another veteran lefty such as Cody Bradford would really really help. But I'd like to keep the starting rotation. I wouldn't be opposed to a number of bullpen changes. If we're going to spend anywhere, I'd spend more there because we've got a great starting lineup, but if we can just increase our hitting a little, which is very achievable with the right kind of coaching, culture, and leadership, both at the baseline level and at the management and front office levels, I think with a little bit more motivation, incentivization, whatever you want to call it, it's not money, but I do believe that there's a lack of inspiration in these younger guys that are great hitters. They've proven themselves, as I said in our last podcast, they've proven themselves to be better hitters. What I want to see is, again, preserving the starting pitching rotation. If any changes need to be made, whatever extra budget there is, funnel it more into, deciding how best to bolster the bullpen so that we can preserve what leads we have in 2026 so that we can still maintain a relatively top-notch, relatively quality pitching staff all around, including bullpen. But then with the hitting, whether it's sticking with Brett Boone or going in a different direction, the main thing that I'm going to be looking for from Chris Young is his level of trust and his level of faith in the new manager guy. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, it's which one? Yeah, hopefully we're going to still see Mike Maddox that actually like sticking around. But Skip Schumacher, he was hired as the new manager. He was hired for, I believe, it was a multi-year deal. It was a 4-year deal. He had already been embedded with Texas as a special assistant. I'm not going to go too much into speculation on how I think he's going to do. I just want to see what, if any, impact a new manager will have on these young stars. I mean, on these real young, very motivated, already proven in terms of value and worth guys. I want to see where that goes, but that's my
Okay.
overall outlook for what changes I do and don't want to see in 2026.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, we're gonna keep an eye out for it. Well, I know you're gonna have a lot of off-season developments and give us some updates and further podcasts. Yeah, man. Listen, if this leadership change for you guys, like, because you and I have both talked about this before, even within your job and my job, previous jobs, like it's always top down, so the top always affects the rest and sets the culture and the tones from the top. So I really hope that this guy can turn it around and galvanize these young players who have so much talent, have the ability to hit, have the ability to play stellar defense, amazing pitching. I really hope that it can sort of just mesh and it's a cheesy word, but synergy. Like you guys can really get that sort of congruence together in the team chemistry, really. I think you guys can do it, but I'm an optimist. I'm in that way, sports wise. Real life, I'm a pessimist, but in sports, I'm an optimist forever. No, I think you guys are going to do great, man, next year. But I look forward to hearing more developments and the new storylines that come out as we get into it.
Oh, absolutely, dude. But that being said, that's pretty much all there is to say about the Texas Rangers, and there's probably going to be that
Fantastic.
much less for the for the next several months. So we got to get into the main event in this
Ding, ding,
season of the
ding.
year and get
Yep.
over to some Notre Dame. How have y'all been
Woo!
doing? I heard that there was a bit of a rougher start, but you got to talk me through where you guys have been thus far and where you guys are anticipating going for the rest of this season. Where are y'all at?
So, you know how emotionally you guys as a fan base were in that spot of our backs are against the wall, but we could make it, we could get there. We have the talent, we have the coaches, we have everything, but we're we just got to win out. So we had two trip ups, and on initial rip, as a fan, I was like, this is just typical Notre Dame football. Like we're overhyped, and we have the players, we just can't put it together. So our first game we had, it was against the University of Miami in Miami. I actually went to the game, and that was a raucous crowd, by the way. Like loudest crowd environment I've ever been to. Miami fans are wild. We got cursed out of there, by the way, as Notre Dame fans. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The f bombs and the you
Yeah,
sucks and the you should have never been borns. I was like, wow, okay, brutal,
we
brutal.
we
We
love
love
our
it.
Dolphins down here. Yeah, we really do, don't we?
Yeah. No, we don't.
I couldn't care
But
less. I just want to point out I couldn't
yeah.
care less about Miami football. Like
So,
I really couldn't.
likewise.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What was it? It was a Gators Notre Dame game, right? Or no?
So University of Miami, the
Okay, okay.
Hurricanes, and
Gotcha.
so they were a top 15 team preseason. Now we know it's because we're about 4 games into the college football season. They're a top five team. Like currently, I believe they're ranked number four and number three in the country. So they're actually much, much better than the preseasons and the analysts kind of had really in their sort of in their predictions. They're much, much better. So they're a legit top five team. Same with Texas A&M. That game was wild, and I know as a Texas man yourself, you know about A&M. You know about how good they are year in and year out. Last year when we played Texas A&M at their house, we got the win with 2 minutes left, and it was a great game. Really propelled the Irish into the season. But this year they came up to South Bend. This game was weird, and the big difference between this year and last year is this was an offensive shootout. Like last year's game, neither team reached 30 points. This year, both the teams reached 40 points. So it was a 41 to 40 game where the Irish literally lost in the last, I believe it was the last 25 seconds. Texas A&M, fourth and goal, maybe it was maybe like I don't know, fourth and 15, something like that. The A&M quarterback gets the ball, he rolls out, he's being pass rushed, he kind of just chucks up a prayer. The tight end for Texas A&M catches it, touchdown, tie game, and so it's 40-40. Granted, the when Notre Dame just had scored with 2 minutes left, they missed the extra point. The holder botched the extra point, so it was sort of like more of
Oh,
an excruciating loss in that way. Is like you had multiple factors, and we were the better team. Like I'm trying not to be biased in that way. We legit played a better game. It's just it's one of those games you gifted it to them multiple occasions. Like your mistakes, your mental mistakes. You weren't locked in, you weren't focused in multiple areas, and those cost you. So that's what happened in that game. To give you a little bit of stats on that, with between those two games, the 0 and 2, it was the losses was a combined margin of 4 points. And these are now we know Texas A&M. They've gone on a winning streak since then. They're pretty good. They're undefeated. They're a top 10 team as well. So we now know like, entering the season, we thought okay these are gonna be 2 wins. Maybe Miami lost, but Texas A&M we were definitely thought we were gonna win. Both of those we lost very, very last minute, and it really is. We've seen a couple trends here because we played a game after that, a couple games after that. We played Purdue, and we absolutely smoked them. It was like 55-30. Now that 30 is
what?
concerning. I'll get into that in a little bit because the defense has been a bit tough.
Ooh.
That's what's been the struggle this year. But we also just played Arkansas last week, and we boat raced these guys. It was 55-13, and the defense looked improved. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but I
Yeah.
want to focus a little on the offense. All right. And I'm trying to kind of get through all of the minutia just to catch you up and catch everybody
Yes.
watching
No,
up.
dude. That's what I need.
get you guys up to speed. Yeah, that's maybe probably more what I need than you need, but yeah, just to divulge and have a therapy session here.
Oh, of course. That's what. Yeah, just yeah.
That's why we started this.
That's ultimately why we're doing this
That's
in
why
the
we're
first
doing
place,
this.
bro. Yeah, look, come on. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah. So let me get into the offense. So offense is rolling. As I mentioned, so this is what we're seeing is basically like a top 10 offense in the country. Our freshman quarterback, CJ Carr, I mentioned him to you.
Yeah, we talked about him a lot last time.
So he has never started a game. He is killing it, and I'm really glad that this prediction that I made was correct because you just saw it in the kid in the videos when he'd throw. He just was different. Him, Jeremiah Love, he's gonna be the number one running back drafted next year. He's having a killer season. His backup at running back, Jadarian Price, this guy is incredible. He's already had a kick return touchdown. I believe he has 4 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns, which no other player in the country has that right now. So the offense
Wow.
is really good. The passing game is ranked 11th in scoring offense according to Fox Sports. So it's a really high level passing offense.
11th out of how
Out
many?
of 135, I believe, FBS teams in the country.
Okay, all right, let's go.
So the offense as a whole, we're averaging 44 points a game right now. So it's really a stellar offense. High level talent, multiple players are going to be drafted. I actually just heard this one insight from a reporter, like an analyst kind of guy for the draft for NFL, and he said CJ Carr is going to be a first round pick in 2 years. He's that good. So they've been very disciplined as well on their offensive side. They haven't been getting penalties. Only 33 yards of penalty yards per game, which is like 2 to 3 penalties a game. Really, really good for an offense.
That's very good.
Very good. Arkansas game I mentioned to you. We rushed for 210 yards, 4 touchdowns, with Love and Price leading the charge on those. In the Purdue game, Love and Price combined for 240 rushing yards, only on 29 carries, with 5 rushing touchdowns between them. And they're averaging 8.2 yards per carry. So they're almost getting a first down every time they touch the ball.
Every single time. That's incredible. Oh my
These
word.
guys are both going to get drafted. I think Jadarian, by the end of the season, is going to get the recognition he deserves, and I think he'll be a first rounder when he comes out too. Yeah, so they're both really just rolling these 2 running backs. I believe it's the best running back tandem in the country. The numbers bear that out. It's not just my subjective love. It's the numbers bear this out.
Dude, absolutely. No, I don't know a whole ton about football and different statistics, but if you're nearly averaging an entire first down every single play,
yeah, it's legit.
That's pretty incredible. I know
It's
that
legit.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's actually very, very legit.
Yeah, they're really legit this year. Now, I had mentioned to you, and I wonder if you remember this. I said because you kind of asked me, all right, what are your concerns? What are the threats to this perfect season? The dreaming, right? And I mentioned to you, well, my biggest concern is the new defensive coordinator, Chris Ash, because he's brand new. I didn't like the hire, to be honest, when he came out. I just kind of thought he was a Renaissance coach. He coached at Rutgers. He didn't do well there. He's a defensive guy, but I never really liked his resume. But he's sort of like been around for a while and has experience. That's why he got hired. And that's what it seems like is why he got hired. What we're seeing is a rocky start with the defense, especially those first 3 games with Texas A&M, Miami, Purdue. It was rough. The defense surrenders a lot of yards, 389 yards per game. That's putting them in the bottom 95th percentile in the country. So they're 95th out of that 130 something in terms of the yards that they are allowing, which is pretty rough because last year we were number 1 in defensive efficiency in the country. So we've seen like a flipping on the head of what our team's strengths are because our offense was like shaky last year, and now we're just probably they're the top 3 in my opinion of like the balance of the offense between rushing and passing. I think we'll see that bear out at the end of the season. But the defense, it's like, what the heck is going on? Like, especially the pass defense. That was our strength last year, and we returned like most, except for Xavier Watts, we returned all of our defensive backs. We're allowing 268 passing yards. That's 121st nationally. That's per game. So we went from number 1 to 121. To me, that spells you can use your deductive reasoning here. That's Chris Ash, a new defensive coordinator. And the media, like the Notre Dame reporters and things like this, have really been challenging Marcus Freeman in each of those post-game press conferences. They've been hey, what's going on with the defense? Like, why are the players they're running around looking confused? Like a lot of these guys are going to be drafted. Like, what's going on? Like, they're not bad players, but they're all in bad positioning, bad technique. It looks horrible. Recently, Marcus Freeman just admitted that they had to make some schematic tweaks and simplify the defense and clarify roles for players so that they could play faster. So, you and I have talked about this, and I want to get your thoughts too, because I know I've been rambling.
Yeah.
He's basically said that Chris Ash, I think Marcus Freeman's known to be a delegator, which is a good thing. He trusts his people, but I think he over delegated with Chris Ash. Chris Ash basically said, let me take this number one ranked defense and just change what they're doing because I'm smarter. And it's like that was so frustrating on our end. So now Marcus is basically it was reported that they had a conversation, those two, and Marcus was like, "Listen, you need to change things, or it's not going to be good." Read between the lines. So we played a little bit better against Arkansas. Allowed only 13 points, which is kind of like reminiscent of last year's numbers, but Arkansas is not that great of a team. So we're kind of waiting to see, is this going to be the new defense that we thought it was going to be? But my question to you is, bro, like when you see that happening, like the head coach and he's sort of over delegated or he's allowed something, like as a leader yourself, like how do you sort of rein that back in, and kind of get back control of the team and try to push through the rest of the year?
Well, let me first ask, what, if any, relationship did Freeman and Ash, or Asher, whatever it is,
Yeah,
what kind
Chris
of
Ash.
relationship, if any, did they have before this?
So they had not coached together, but they had mutual contacts with each other. So Marcus Freeman's coached at a multitude of different places, Cincinnati. I believe he coached at some other smaller D1 schools as well. And they had kind of guys. Marcus Freeman had other coach friends that had worked with Ash and vouched for him, and I think he took their word, and so he hired him. And Chris Ash was in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars just this past year, which may not be a not a good hire in that sense because the Jaguars defense was pretty brutal last year. But yeah, that's how they kind of knew each other through common connections. They hadn't worked together yet. To answer your
Okay,
question.
so they hadn't. Okay, that's the answer I was looking for. One of the core values at my company, I feel like it actually. Sorry, I talked about my job way too much. My goodness.
You're a workaholic. It's okay.
But no, it's true. Yeah, no, I'm definitely bought into the culture too. So yeah, one of the core values of that my company really believes in is in team member development, and I think it absolutely goes for leadership development as well. So how do you develop new people, or how do you grow people effectively? Well, there's a set system. There's 5 points with it. It's one, affirming the desire; two, teaching; 3, modeling and observing. So actually, hey, this is what kind of model I want you to stick with, and then I'm observing you do it. And then there's sharing and testing, like you're going back and forth on it. And then there's reaffirming and empowering. So it's okay, we start out with, we recognize your desire. Let me start by teaching you, by giving you stretch assignments, by actually growing that up. I know obviously Asher, is it Ash or Asher?
Chris Ash.
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 Okay,
Yep.
so with Ash, yeah, he may very well have had some coaching type positions in the past, but I don't know. Probably, would you say that this is like the highest leverage coaching position he's had, if anything?
Maybe the most visibility at the college level
Yeah,
because he was in the NFL, but
but
this is probably the most difficult one in my opinion because it's very hard to be a coach at Notre Dame. A lot of scrutiny.
No, absolutely. So the point here is, okay, so it's affirming the desire, it's teaching, it's modeling and observing, it's sharing and testing, it's affirming and empowering. You hear all the things that go in it. It's an integrated system. It's a feedback loop each step of the way. It's a communication process. So that's where my point is going with this, is that you cannot have delegation without trust. You can't have trust without accountability. Delegation and accountability go hand in hand. So if you give someone a blank check and they're not qualified for it, which it sounds like Ash is, sounds like he is.
He is qualified.
He is qualified. However, the chemistry between co-leaders is absolutely essential. Like I was talking a little earlier about me and my number 2, Jake.
Yep. Yep.
I know what's going on in his personal sphere, and I know his interests. I know it in and out. We can play off of each other's moves. Dude, there's so much opportunity there. But we got there I started with, hey, dude, you started as a regular line team member, and then he was moving up. Okay, and then we learned each other and our coaching styles and our management styles and our leadership styles and our language, so to speak, was kind of developed and morphed along the way so that we were always pursuing the same goal in the same way, and there wasn't a breakdown in values, in coordination, in character, in prerogatives, in time commitment.
Yeah.
Everything goes hand in hand. Yes, it's not, dude, it's so great to have qualified people come in. But I would, 9 ways to Sunday, so much more prefer, at least in my job, I would so much more prefer raising up someone that I got to develop.
Yes.
And raising them up because they understand me and I already understand them. Dude, you can have an all-star. If you ever watch the movie Miracle, like halfway through the movie, it's talking about like there was this absolute all-star guy. I can't remember his name, but he was brought onto the team last minute, which if they signed him, that would mean they'd be breaking apart their little family. And it was heavily dramatized for the film, but it's more or less how it did actually go down in the 1980, Winter Olympics U.S. team for hockey.
Yeah.
Is how it went down was, hey, then the coach, Herb Brooks, he was approached after this, all-star guy was brought on and all of this, and he might have been getting signed, and everybody was getting back on the bus, and then Herb Brooks was actually called out of the bus, and just a few of his key team members, hockey players, just called him out, and they were like, "Listen, why are you doing this so late in the season?" He was like, "Dude, and Herb Brooks was like, I know that this kid can flat out play. I know he can flat out play. He moves with the stick, puck, ice, and then he was cut off. And one of his hockey players says, "That's not the point.
Yeah.
We're a family. We can play off of each other's moves. We all work together. We're in this together.
Yeah,
we all
trust.
have the same inherent goal. That trust, but trust is built over a long period of time and it's lost in an instant, just like credibility. So where I go with this, sorry, I'm on my own rant here.
No, dude,
leadership
I love
in general, but that's where I go with it too. And I think it's actually pretty endemic in sports as well.
It really is, man.
Some people, I'd say a lot of people, whether it's players or coaches, are products of the system through which they were grown. That's why we talk about farm systems. They're good within a given system, but it's not like taking a fish out of a fish tank at an aquarium, bringing it back home and plopping it in, giving it a couple days to acclimate, and then it's fine. That's not how human beings work. You can't just plop someone in an entirely different environment with entirely different values imbued in them and totally different experiences that you may or may not have known it. And that's why I started out.
Try the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But it's also like, it's why I disagree with the military in the aspect of, man, we're going on so many rabbit trails. I love it. So with the military, I think maybe it's changed since this, but what I've heard is when somebody is actually promoted to something like, somewhat high level, like lieutenant or something, like lieutenant in the Army, very often they're moved to a different team, to a different unit, because leadership, the top brass doesn't believe that, if they stayed in the same unit, that they'd be treated with the proper respect, which to an extent I do, but I've seen so much more just firsthand the impact of, products of the organization through which they were brought up, through that actually empowered them, that did those 5 steps of development, that actually went through all that with them. And the chemistry and the trust that's built along the way, I feel like is just as, if not more valuable than the flat out skills that you can do. Because here's the thing, with leadership and just with, just people and development in general, the way I've always liked to explain it to people is it's 10% skills. It's 90% character. It's not that I'm saying that Ash has bad character, but the character matrix that shaped and molded him, not only in childhood, but more relevantly, like in the sport itself, in the coaching sphere, is not Freeman. It's not Freeman. So a mismatch of the culture and mismatch of the development is what's going to cause these bumps in the road.
Well, it's funny that you say that is because a lot of the guys who are the assistant coaches under Freeman, like Mike Mickens, he's the defensive backs coach, the offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrock, both of those guys have literally worked with Freeman in the past. And so Freeman is very big on, similarly like what you said, he's like, I want people who I know, I trust, essentially I know how to work with them and they know how to work with me. And I
Yes.
trust that they're going to teach the right things and that they're going to basically put the organization first. Now, Ash is new. He has not worked alongside Freeman. I mean, Freeman said it in a press conference, exactly what you're alluding to, but he kind of said it in a more covert way. He said, "Listen, I've never been in the fire with Chris Ash before, so we're in the fire right now." Now, that's an interesting quote, and when you reflect on that and you kind of put it in that framework of what you're saying of like, these co-leaders and how do they kind of get that sort of synergy, well, that's how you do it. Is you literally have to go through the fire together. You have to give up 300 something yards per game in the passing offense for both of you to look at each other and go, "This isn't working." And having those tough conversations of you might get fired if you don't change this. Now, I don't know if that was actually said, but something along those lines in a
It's in the back of your
conversation
mind
was
constantly.
alluded to by Marcus Freeman to Chris Ash. Now, like I said, against Arkansas, we saw that 13 point. We held them to 13 points. That's a really good outing, and the yards reflected that as well. It was a really, really good defensive game. We'll see if now just to transition a little bit. We saw that last week. Now this week, today at 3:30, we're playing Boise State, which is a smaller school. However, they're not a patsy because they've been a prominent school within college football. They've won several big bowl games. The last year, they actually went to the college football playoff. Boise State, they lost to Penn State, but they still made it to the playoffs. And they actually put up a pretty good game against Penn State. So they're year in and year out a really good school. This year they're not as good, just reflecting on the first 4 games as they were last year. Because last year they had the best running back in college football, actually. Ashton Genty, he was great. He's in the NFL now, killing it. But they still have good running backs. They still have a good quarterback. Maddox, he was the quarterback last year. So as you can see here with this episode 3, Nate, we've got some offensive fireworks for the Irish. Defense, we're finding our identity, but we have a chance to make a statement and really kind of like, okay, was that Arkansas thing? Was that a one-time deal? Was it just Arkansas was bad on offense? What was the deal? Boise State here, they're good offensively. We know that going in. So if we can really right the ship and put on a good second week in a row of a defensive performance, as Irish fans, that's more of a settling feeling because all of the analysts are basically saying since we started 0-2, we have a chance to go 3-2 today. If we win out the rest of our schedule and go 10-2, it's probably like 90%, 95% likely we'll make the playoffs unless there's just this weird season. But most likely if we do win out, we'll make the playoffs. Now we have to win out. We're projected to beat every team remaining on our schedule, and the one that really only scares me is Southern California. But
Ooh, yeah.
they're a really good team in and out, especially that offense. But
Yeah.
if we can kind of, and this is where I can relate to you guys as Rangers fans about a month ago, it's like you're just on eggshells. It's like, why couldn't you just do this the right? Why couldn't you just win one of those two
Just
games?
do it.
Just
Why'd you
do
have to
it.
do this to me?
Oh, dude, it's torturous. You know how it is, man. But real quick on Boise State, I'm gonna give you a quick overview on
Yeah,
them.
talk me through it.
I'm gonna give you sort of my predictions and give you the money line and thing like that. Boise State. So their offense is a pretty good one. I mentioned Notre Dame's passing offense. Boise's passing offense averages just under 300 yards a game, at 299 yards a game. So that's pretty good. Their rushing attack's also good, 220 yards per game. That's per ESPN. Their scoring offense, so how much they score, is ranked 22nd at 38.5 points per game. So they're a really good offense. And they haven't played a bunch of nobodies. So it's pretty good. We see that they're also a decent defense. They have experience. They run a really complex schematic defense. So they bring a lot of pressures, creative stunts, and things like that with their defensive line. So they're going to be a challenge in terms of the defense for our offense. But skill-wise, we are clearly the better team. Talent-wise, we're clearly the better team. But again, with these teams that are highly disciplined, good coached, they're good. They always have a shot in college football. That's kind of how the sport works. Is there's a saying any given Saturday. So yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. Now, some of the weak points for Boise State, their pass defense. That's the weak spot of the defense. 185 yards allowed per game. It's not the best. Their defense overall, so rush and pass defense, 338 yards per game of combined. So that's 56 in the country. So they're not the worst, but they're average.
Yeah, they're around there.
They're around there. So their rushing defense is vulnerable. They give up more on the ground than they do passing. And they do turn the ball. They've tended to turn the ball over when their quarterback gets pressured. So one of the keys to victory for the Irish is they really need to generate a
Pressure on
pass
the
runs
quarterback.
against that. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Rush that
Mm-hmm.
quarterback. Yeah. So for me, keys to the game I have here is lean into the contrast. So Notre Dame's offense is elite, but the defense is still kind of gluing itself together, as I mentioned. That tension, we need to see that flip. We need to see both of those, offense and defense, line up and be ready for this game. For Boise, they can be dangerous because if our defense has a lapse, which I've explained, they've had many lapses,
Too many.
they can stay in the game, keep it close to the fourth quarter, and then maybe pull it off. That's sort of the edge that they have. They're not going to win outright, talent wise. I want to see CJ Carr throwing it all over. I want to see Love and Price give them the ball a lot, just dominate on the run game. And yeah, it's just it's kind of a good matchup. I do believe we're going to win. So for me, I'm picking the Irish to win by 21. I know that sounds big and sounds a bit gregarious, but that's what the money line is right now is Irish by 20. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to say 21. And yeah, man, it's going to be a great game. 3:30 today on NBC, and I'm excited for the Irish
Dude,
to
huge.
just play another game, my guy. So
Doesn't sound like.
there's my Notre Dame rant
Yeah,
for this
especially
episode.
given that you said that your offense was ranked 11th. Is that right?
Yes, yes, nationally.
Yeah,
Yes.
the fact that their defense is ranked, did you say 56th?
Yeah, I think overall they're around that 56.
I would say that there's a very good chance. I might be jinxing y'all, but I would say that there's a that it's that the balance of probability, just even pure statistics, statistically average. Yeah, that's what Boise State
I'm
is.
rolling my eyes at that one.
Doesn't seem like Boise State is gonna be really stopping the offense. So even if your defense is a little bit poorer and is still finding their rhythm, whatever you want to
Yep.
call it. Come on,
Yep.
Ash, get yourself together, boy. But even if they're kind of just a little bit, as long as you guys are dominating in the offensive category, and that's where I as a Texas Rangers fan can relate is, hey, every time that we've gone to the playoffs, it's because our offense has been extraordinary, and every single time we've gone to the World Series, our offense has been top notch, but our pitching, i.e. the most critical part of defense in baseball, our defense essentially is average, if not pretty abysmal. Like every
Yeah.
single time, it might not get you to the absolute winning line, but you guys are you're still just very much the start of the season. There's a lot of walking on eggshells and white knuckling that you'll have to do in these. Uh, but the offense still continuing to pop off. Like you guys already had two different games where you scored more than 50 runs or 50
Yeah,
points.
yeah, 50 points in two different games.
What the? I don't know. Is that
Well,
common in
and
college football? I don't think it
no,
is.
that's the thing. It's not. And also, even the week before that, because that was Arkansas, and then Purdue the week before that. But even before that, against Texas A&M, who is a top 25 defense, we put up 40 points, and we should have put up more. Our offensive coordinator, Mike Dembrock, um, literally in the press conference is like, we could have scored more. Like genuinely, like coaches say that, oh, we could have. No, he was like, we literally left like two touchdowns on the table, and I watched the game, and they did. So this offense is elite. Just like the
Oh
Texas
my
Rangers, your
gosh.
pitching is elite. Like that's non-questionable. Our offense is elite this year because we finally have a quarterback who can throw down the field and can throw for over 200 yards a game. Which I love Riley Leonard. He was more of a running quarterback, but he never really threw up to 300 yards a game. So CJ Carr last week just threw 350 yards and four touchdowns last game against Arkansas,
You're
who is an
finding,
SEC team. So it's like
dude.
we have legit players all over the field. The wide receiver talent this year is good. No questioning the offensive talent, but yeah, man, this game is going to be a good one. Looking forward to watching it, and I'll be texting you afterwards
For
of
sure.
a smiley face or a sad face. I don't know. We'll see what
Anything else to
happens.
say? Not necessarily on projections, but on things to watch for even beyond the Boise State game. What do you need to happen? What do you need to see more consistently? Maybe starting today, but really just very, very soon. What needs to happen now in order for the season to progress the way you want it?
Absolutely. I'm not questioning coaching except for Ash. Marcus Freeman is a coach that is somebody who doesn't put blinders on. He's proved that time and time again whenever there's a problem. He always says, point the finger at yourself. What could I have done different? And he does that. So that's kind of his leadership style, and he really models that for the coaches and the players. I believe that he really did have a good conversation with Ash at some point, and I believe that they hashed some things out. And I think they're going to return to a little bit of the style of defense we saw last year, which was a little more man-to-man coverage style, whereas this year it's been heavy with zone. I think we're going to start returning to that. I think if we stick to that identity that we really have developed defensively over the past 2 or 3 years, I think this year we could, given the opponents that we have the rest of the year, again, the only one that I see concerning is Southern California because I'm pretty sure they're top 15 offense. Their defense is a suspect, but their offense is legit. Outside of that, we are heavily favored, and not for bad reason. I mean, it's like the Vegas money lines are saying that we're heavily favored in those games because we really, as I mentioned to you in previous podcasts, the talent on this team is undeniable. We're gonna have multiple first rounders that are gonna be drafted this year and next year. It just is a legit team. It's just a matter of okay, the defense just has to find not even like the top groove. They don't have to be a top 10 defense. That's how talented this offense is. They just need to be top 30. They just can't be in the 50s or 60s in defense. They need to be top 30. If, like I said, what we did last week against Arkansas, that continues this week against Boise. Really another step in the progression. And then we keep playing throughout the rest of the year. If we just have a top 30, 35 defense, like we don't have to be the best like last year. This team will win out and they will, I think, make some noise in the playoffs. Will we win it all? I don't know. But I think we could definitely go to the playoffs and make some noise. So to answer your question, yeah, that's what I see. I see it's just okay, you had those blips. Now, you've had those tough conversations leadership wise, and you've made the changes. It worked in this first week. Are we going to see those changes continue to work? I just got to see it. Does that make sense?
110%. But you know what? My bet as a non-Notre Dame fan is you're going to end the season statistically average.
Ah, no,
Nah, I'm just kidding.
no.
Come on now, we gotta be going all the way, and you got to be a little bit more cautiously optimistic
Yeah,
than you
absolutely.
are now. But you know what? I do agree with you that yeah, with a little bit more of a pull and some pressure on defensive management on Ash, I see good things. I see good things happening
see.
as long as your offense can maintain this level of performance. Because dude, offense is absolutely key, but more key than offense or defense is what brings it all together, which is the leadership. So as long as you continue to trust that Marcus Freeman guy, as long as Ash can figure out the chemistry and the rhythm needed with Freeman and with his entire defensive line, then y'all be off to the races, man. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
right. That's right, my man. Well, listen, bro. That's all I got for the Irish and my rants of my coping mechanisms here. Do you got anything else for us, Rangers people here?
Man,
Or what?
these Rangers, hey, as was noted by a super awesome like 2 hour long documentary. Basically, it was a YouTube video created by I think it was called Sports Storm or something. Shout out to that guy. But as you said in there, multiple times, like the common theme was, hey, in order to really appreciate the winning, you have to be there for the losing. And you know
Facts.
what? I am not in any way with this season, and even not with last season. I'm not no less of a Rangers fan because of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I am that much more looking forward to each and every season because I'm that much more excited for what actually comes next. Because honestly,
Yes.
nothing tastes sweeter than finally getting to the top. But you
Ah.
can't stay at the top because then you're the Los Angeles Dodgers and you hate, and everyone hates you and you
Everybody
hate
can't
everyone.
stand you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the teacher's pet kind of complex in
Yes.
MLB baseball. And I think we're all really tired of it. You as a college football fan, dude, we all got really tired of Bama's roll tide, fellers. We got really, really tired of that really, really fast. It was like, oh, they broke another record. Oh, they won another champ.
Oh,
Nobody
it was so
cares.
annoying.
Everybody just wants them to lose. I don't want that. I love having an underdog team because when they actually get to roll some of these top dogs, then man, it is it is a spanking well worth watching. So
That's why we
where
love
I'm
our
at, man.
sports. That's why we love our sports.
That's why we love it.
Cool, man. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap this thing up, and we want to thank you guys for joining in. Our
Absolutely.
13 subscribers. Let's go, baby. We're gonna boost that up. It's gonna keep growing, and yeah, we're here to have a good time. Me and Nate, we're good buddies. We hang out outside of this all the time. We do discipleship together, and yeah, he's a brother. And I'm thankful for this podcast and thankful for you guys joining. As I always say, guys, thank you. My name is Connor, lifelong Notre Dame football fan, and for one Nate away over here, the Texas Ranger delusional loyalist. Thank you for joining Down and Out but Statistically Average podcast. Have a great one, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.